Hello, I'm Moira Alderson with the BBC News. Senior Taliban officials say they've taken up positions inside Kabul airport and are ready to take control as soon as the Americans leave. The US insists its forces are still in charge of the site. Our chief international correspondent, Lise Doucette, is in Kabul.
More and more posts from senior Taliban figures talking about the foreign occupation has ended, we're in the airport, showing them moving into the military side of the airport, which led us to ask, have they all pulled out? Now, we understand that this is proceeding much more quickly than we thought. We've had sources telling us that, yes, the troops are wrapping up, the US and the UK, that the Taliban have now taken over more and more of the military and civilian airports. So it looks like it could be a matter of hours.
The head of the International Rescue Committee has warned that an invisible crisis is brewing in Afghanistan because 20 million people there are reliant on humanitarian help. David Miliband told The Guardian newspaper he feared the military pullout would be followed by an international diplomatic, political and humanitarian withdrawal from the country. A US intelligence report has concluded that COVID-19 was not developed as a biological weapon by China, but it said Beijing had hindered the global investigation. The analysts were divided on the exact origins of the virus. David Willis has more details.
The report does agree on a couple of things. The virus was not developed as a biological weapon. It probably wasn't in some way genetically engineered, and it found that Chinese officials didn't have foreknowledge of the virus before the initial outbreak occurred. But it's divided, of course, on the likely origin, whether it came from natural exposure to an infected animal or as a result of an incident in a laboratory in Wuhan.
A parole board in California has recommended that the man who assassinated Robert F. Kennedy during his presidential campaign in 1968 should be released from prison. Sirhan Sirhan has served more than 50 years in jail for the killing, which was a defining event of the 20th century in US politics. Our Washington correspondent, Nomia Iqbal, reports.
Sirhan Sirhan was 24 years old when he shot Robert F. Kennedy at a hotel in Los Angeles after he had delivered a speech. Sirhan, a Christian Palestinian refugee, said he didn't remember the killing, but later acknowledged he was angry with Kennedy for his support of Israel. This was the 16th time he had been up for parole. The panel advised that the decision is not yet final and could be reversed if Sirhan Sirhan violates a set of conditions. Ultimately, the 77-year-old's fate rests in the hands of California's Governor Gavin Newsom, who will review the case.
World News from the BBC. The mayor of the US city of New Orleans has called for residents to evacuate unprotected neighbourhoods as Hurricane Ida approaches the coastline of Louisiana. The storm has just hit western Cuba and is expected to strengthen as it approaches the Gulf Coast of the United States. John Bell Edwards is the governor of Louisiana.
Hurricane Ida is rapidly intensifying. We now believe that there is a strong likelihood that this will be a Category 4 hurricane at landfall. And so the next 24 hours are very, very important.
New research in the UK has shown that those suffering from the Delta variant of COVID-19 are twice as likely to end up in hospital as those who had previous strains. Experts say vaccines bring the risk of serious disease down with all the main variants. Michelle Roberts has the details.
The study looked at more than 43,000 COVID cases that occurred between March and May, when both the Alpha and Delta variants were circulating in the UK. The bulk of these infections were in people who'd not yet been vaccinated. Most didn't need hospital care, but around 2 in every 100 did. The risk of hospital admission was twice as high for individuals diagnosed with the Delta variant compared with those who had the Alpha strain, after adjusting for differences such as age, sex and ethnicity.
Scientists surveying a rare lizard species in the Galapagos Islands have estimated that only about 200 pink land iguanas remain in existence. About 30 scientists and park rangers carried out the survey on the slopes of the Wolf volcano on Isabella Island, the only known natural habitat of the pink iguana. They said they did not locate any juveniles and that urgent action was needed to prevent the extinction of the species. Pink land iguanas were first discovered in 1986. That's the latest world news from the BBC.